Welcome to the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another great guest. In fact, I've had the opportunity to see this person speak live on stage in front of lots of entrepreneurs and business CEOs, over thousands and thousands of them, talking about AI, sustainability, climate leadership, and everybody was in awe. And it was great having her on stage, and I couldn't wait to have her here today. She's been able to help a lot of leadership groups and teams adopt AI in a way where they preserve culture, judgment, and also integrity, while also making sure it amplifies what's already working so that it doesn't confuse people, it doesn't mess things up. She has also been voted one of the most influential, sustainable aquaculture businesswomen in 2023, and also one of the Canada's top 100 female entrepreneurs. She's been able to help lots of businesses and also companies and entrepreneurs with regards to utilizing their knowledge, adapting AI, leveraging that, while also being able to be sustainable, creating legacy, and also impact. So please welcome Senior Managing Partner of AI Agency Group, Ms. Lourdes Gant.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Fong. I'm really excited to be here today. We've been seeing each other for quite some time, so it's nice to be able to finally sit down and get to know you more and your audience.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm sure we pass each other a lot during these events, and we see each other on social media a lot too. It's a shame that we don't get to chat a lot during the conferences, but that's what AI is for, right?
Yeah, well,
AI and
that,
social
that
media.
will that will have to change then now.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here. I know your main thing is right now helping people implement AI. AI is a big thing right now. But please share with us your origin story. Where were you before? How did you become the top 100 female entrepreneurs in Canada? How did you become this most influential, sustainable person? Share with us that story.
Sounds good. Well, got started in the Philippines where I was from a poverty-stricken background as my family doesn't have much, but that became kind of my fuel to be where I am now. So really, really studious, probably a nerd when I was in high school, but I was really clear with my goal to get my family out of poverty. And so education was the bridge for me to be able to do that. So I really was ambitious, really my whole motto was if I fail to plan, I plan to fail. So I was like a horse with like a blinder that I was just really going to do what I said I was gonna do. So that was kind of what my modus operandi was when I was younger. And so, as you know, that can be a double-edged sword because I didn't have as much fun. I was really like just study home. And then come to a point wherein I became corporate. My background is actually as a CPA, master's in business administration as well from way back in the Philippines before I even came to Canada. And so I was tasked to actually implement an audit department in one of the biggest companies in the Philippines before I came here. And I have to deal with people, and I had a hard time with that. They actually called me smiling bitch because I was an auditor and I just didn't have any people skills. It was horrible, actually. And so from that experience, I learned that, in anything, people is involved. So I get to develop that people skills from my corporate background. And since then, after I came to Canada, I joined my husband in the family firm, which is a sustainable aquaculture business. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically ocean farming. He has 10,000 hours of diving experience as a commercial fisherman under the water and fell in love with this shellfish called guvida. So it's a king clam that gets to live for 150 years old, actually. And so my corporate background and learning how to deal with people helped me in our family business to be able to actually attract the ideal client and ideal investor that we have now. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
That's absolutely amazing. Now, I know a lot of people talk about business, talk about entrepreneurship, and they jump right into doing numbers. They talk about what their products are, their services. Rarely do they talk about the people interactions. And you talked about how you were able to kind of hone those skills in your corporate life. How how did you hone those skills? Because you went from a person where people go, oh, here she comes again. She's gonna look at my numbers. She's gonna give me this smile, but I know I'm wrong or something like that. How did you navigate through that, especially being in a different culture, different environment, and coming in and taking on that role and trying not to like piss people off, burn bridges and stuff like that, and still doing your job?
So what ended up happening was the company that I was working for ended up having to have a fight between, interestingly, it was a family firm too. The sister had a fight, and my boss, who was from Taiwan, was the one that I was reporting to. And there were two factions. Make the long story short, I was in charge of the original group that incorporated this company. And so in my lifetime there, I call it my lifetime there because it seems to be really long when I was there because it was really messy. I actually ended up, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I ended up like bribing some judges and what have you because my boss ended up being like really the number one enemy of the new faction. But make the long story short, since I was in charge of the original faction, we ended up having to incorporate a new company, which I learned a lot. I ended up being in charge of HR, believe it or not, after my internal audit stint. And that's how I found that we can really move things faster if we have the buy-in of people. And so I don't know what took me so long, but maybe I have my really mischievous younger self being this proud and egoistic of I just wanted the job done. And so maybe learning too from experience. And so from there, I just learned that, it's faster if we have people really understand what you're trying to achieve. I guess when I was younger and got into that department, I just wanted to do A, B, C, and then thinking as moving from being employee to self-employed. I think I
Mhm.
developed my being an entrepreneur from that company, and then that I went from there. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how it went.
So what were some of the things that you were consciously working on when you were building relationships? Because you had to have that mindset, okay, I guess I have to do some small talk, or I guess I have to remember these little things about certain individuals, so it shows that I care about their background and all that kind of stuff. What were you doing consciously to make sure that you are able to build relationships and also be authentic about it?
Right. It's not a formula, actually. I think because coming from the Philippines, we are culturally trained to be social. But being social and actually developing a deeper relationship are two different things.
Yeah.
But early on, in the Philippines, we would have parties with our families and friends every week. So it's not like there's only a party or there's only like something to celebrate about. It was like constant weekly. And so I guess innately we're trained to be social. But at the same time, I also learned that being social, as I mentioned, is not the same or equal as developing a relationship. So I guess the starting point is I had an advantage of being socially trained, and then I just go from there. So one of the things that I do that I really implemented in that scenario when I was moved to HR was really actually learning how to listen to people of what their motivations are. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm really big on personal development actually. And so when I was in the Philippines, actually, I was a member of a mastermind group. I don't know if you know the Silva method, but this was from a long time ago. It was the only personal development in the Philippines. And I go once a month. Every first Wednesday of the month, all of the woo-woo people would get together and actually meditate. But anyway, make the long story short, I think it was interesting that when I was, I guess, developing spiritually as well, it goes to say that, I don't know if you heard the saying, but you probably do if you're in a personal development that when people say namaste, I see you, I see the divine in you. And then I remember that when I meet people, I see the divine in any person. And so that's kind of helped me transition from just being social to how do I elevate this from a higher level of consciousness. Now I'm being woo-woo. So let's go next to questions.
It's all good. No, I find that it's very interesting how something so simple as being there to listen to people is like the very first step to building any relationship. And when you start listening and you start asking questions genuinely, either through curiosity or for through care or just some interest, that relationship starts building because of simple questions. And people are so scared about building relationships or networking because they don't know what to say. Well, if you ask good questions, then all of a sudden the pressure's on the other person to answer you, and then a bond starts forming. Do you find that you're able to have some like, what are some of your go-to questions that able to at least break ice or start getting people to really open up to you?
My first question is actually normally, what's your story?
Mm,
Because people, I used to have a mentor that says be interested instead of be interesting. And so I always keep that in mind too, in terms of I really wanted to know what this person is about. And so I think that really helped me pivot when we were fundraising too. I just didn't want to pitch my thing. I just didn't want it to get money from this person. I really wanted to be clear that I have a goal who my ideal person and it's not just because of their money. It was because we were going to be working together. I wanted to share the same values with this person that I'm talking to. And if I really wanted to develop a foundational relationship, not just in business, it goes the same way. I need to have some kind of a common ground, share the same values to be able to befriend somebody.
Mhm. No, I know when you go in and talk to entrepreneurs and companies and leaders, there's always something you're there to add value to, and there's always something that you can solve an issue or help with growth and whatnot. And there's always this thing about, hey, everything is win-win. Is there such thing as win-win? And is that always possible?
It's interesting because I did the Karas negotiation course way back. This was, I think, like, I don't know, 17 years, maybe 18 years ago. And one of the things they said that there's not really a win-win, but he pivoted it in a word that's called both win instead of a win-win. And that made me think actually, okay, what is a both win versus a win-win? I think the way that it was explained was win-win, there's still two sides, maybe they're just compromising and compromising is not good either. So I think both win is you get to give the other party what they really wanted or needed and vice versa. So you actually really both win. So I kind of that really stuck with me. And so now, even in my conversations, even now that we're talking, I remembered, yeah, that's actually what I wanted. And there was a technique that they actually taught us that I wanted to share with your audience. When you're thinking of both win, imagine yourself that you're on top of the ceiling and that you're watching these two parties, maybe you on one side, the other party on one side, and you're being like kind of a silent watcher above the ground there and then seeing how they can actually come together. And that has really helped me with my negotiations in my corporate experience.
Taking yourself outside of your own situation and see from
Yes.
a third person point of view kind of thing. That's
Yes.
very interesting. It allows you to kind of be let's see, it allows you to be able to view things from both sides if you're seeing yourself as a third person. So that's very, very interesting.
Yes.
Now you pivot from the person who's looking at numbers, helping people build their businesses, and then all of a sudden you're speaking on stages now. How was that transition like, and why speak on stages?
It was interesting that you asked me that question because, truth be told, I really don't like speaking. But when I was younger, my mom was a perfectionist. And when I was in university, I actually ended up winning some oratorical contests because I was really good at it. But my mom she would practice with me and I'd cry a lot with the practice. So I guess I got trauma from speaking, but I do really well when I do it. But make the long story short, so I do practice a lot when I was younger, but now I think it's more on, and I'd like to do that because I'd like to push myself, as you know, being I don't know if you know the Enneagram, but I'm type 3, wherein everything is about spotlight and ambition, and I'm Capricorn, and so, Chinese New Year is coming. I don't know when this one is coming out, but all that stuff from Asia, right? So, but make a long story short, so I get to practice at a young age to be on stage, but that came with trauma, as I mentioned. And then I just kind of pivoted to I now have more experience to share that it's not about now of me being on stage, but the value that I say to people with all of the experiences that I had. For example, I was on a panel on Saturday with a group of women that's talking about AI, and there are different levels of women there. Either some are beginners, some are intermediate, and some are really experts on AI. And I was part of the panel, and I was putting myself on the ceiling. Remember, I was telling this when I was on stage, and I'm like, what can I share to the audience that they will really get that without me being too much on the pedestal because I have more experience, but at the same time, they really get what I'm saying. And so most of the time when we're I guess more experience, we are so excited to share what we have in our head and just like what we started about. What is it that they be interested in so that it would be of value to them. So most of the time people will talk about, oh, you should do AI, you should actually be on the bandwagon and otherwise you're going to be obsolete. And so when I went on the ceiling with, when I was thinking about, okay, what can I say that can be of value? I actually pivoted saying AI is great. I'm a proponent of it. But at the same time, there are also things that are going to be happening that are not AI related. We belong to a mastermind group from JT, and all the time they say, you know what? HVAC companies, the cleaners, services that are not going to be AI are going to be the companies that will have a high valuation. So if your passion is in those services, yay, you're going to be like thriving in this AI age. Or I don't know if you're seeing on social media, my dad and I are creating a tiny home village in the Philippines in a remote, no electricity, not even water. It's like off grid, like talk about like really bare bones. And I said, that will be the new trend for agritourism or, farming because people are inundated with all of this noise about technology. They will want to have a respite. And so it will be a future trend that maybe you and I for a week will go to somewhere where there's nothing, just basically you and nature. So you go do that.
No, no technology, no phone, no nothing, and then all of a sudden you feel so much better.
Probably nature heals, yes.
Exactly. So yeah, you mentioned about AI. What are some of the things you're looking for right now with regards to like types of partners, companies, or people that you would like to work with, or that you can help with when it comes to AI implementation? And then also, what are you looking for outside of the AI space?
So for the AI partnership that I have, we technically say, you can hire a dream team now at a fraction of the cost. Have your own executive team wherein before if you hire a CEO that can probably generate you six figures, seven figures will cost you almost the same amount for payroll. And so now with AI, you can have your own executive team, CEO, CFO, CMO, CIO, CTO, maybe even at like really really cheap. It's like, when we have the cell phone came out, it was so expensive, nobody can afford it. Now it's like the cell phone is like in third world countries, you go to even the remote areas that I was mentioning, somebody has a cell phone. So it come to a point now we're in that. So I've basically helped mostly what I call my ideal client avatar, ICA, as founder Frank. And founder Frank is somebody who has reached a certain point in his life wherein he's now ready to scale his business, maybe between 0 to 10 million in revenue, but ended up being the bottleneck of the company, meaning all of the intellectual property, all of the technical expertise that he had is just in his brain. And so he's become the bottleneck because every time that there's a problem or a challenge in the company, his employees have to go ask him what to do. And so there's two disadvantages of that. Decisions are getting to be like slower because he's not available all the time. So the answer is AI himself. So AI yourself is one of the solutions. And the second is that if we capture that knowledge base, his employees can just basically ask, let's just call it AI Frank, online, and he if we capture correctly his knowledge base, then he's going to be able to answer the same way as if he's in person. So that saves a lot of time. Obviously the AI that we're promoting is JT1 AI, just in time one, wherein you can AI yourself, AI your company, AI your organization, and then for a higher revenue, reduce costs, and obviously better, faster, more efficient. So those are kind of a buzzwords, but I think your audience understands it.
Awesome. Now, usually, what's the turnaround of something like that from the time the ideal client comes up to you, go, hey, I wanna get this going and I want to make this work. From that moment to it actually transitioning over and they can kind of step away from it. How long would that usually take?
I think it would depend on what kind of knowledge base are available, to be honest with you. So, for
Mm.
example, I did this with my husband, who's also a founder in our aquaculture business, right? He doesn't have as much written SOPs, doesn't have as much social media presence. And so his time when he was developing was just basically on the boat. So there's no like, I'm gonna have a camera, I'm gonna do make content, and or I'm gonna be doing a blog and what have you. So it was a little bit challenging. So it took us 3 months. And so he has some write-ups from before from our industry association. So I collated all that. I had some SOPs and books that I know he's interested on. But I think the beauty of JT1, and I know I'm doing a shameless self-promotion here, was because they already had a system wherein it can be captured easily. So it will not take that long because every day they will have questions that you have to answer so that the AI will know how he thinks, how he feels, what his beliefs are, what his values and expertise, and so that makes it a little bit more easier.
So when it comes to that kind of stuff, does the person need to go in and spend like hours and hours and hours to kind of put all that information into the system for them to get that done? And does that take like months, days, weeks?
No, again, it depends. I'd like to say I have another family member wherein his rhythm is just off. And when I say that, I'm an early person, so I actually go to bed between 7 to 8 in the evening, and then I'm up 3 to 4 in the morning. That's just how I rolled, even before I was in school,
I
because
haven't
it's the
eaten dinner
quietest.
yet.
It's just my quiet time. So when everybody's still asleep, I'm up. And so, and because also from my background, when I was studying for the CPA board exams, I live in a boarding house wherein there's 10 of us and everybody starts like probably talking about their day at the time it's dinner. So I just go to sleep so that I can wake up early when everybody's asleep, then I can study. But anyway, I segued. So making the long story short, I think it would depend on the time that they wanted to put in terms of uploading the knowledge base. I just tell this family member of mine who actually is the opposite of me would go to bed at 11 or midnight and then ended up waking up between 3 to 4 because he just that's just his rhythm is off. And then he would go back to sleep, let's say 6 o'clock, and then he was tired when he wakes up. So I said, think of it this way actually. If you pretend that every day somebody's gonna come in the house between 7 to 8 a.m., then just wake up like maybe an hour before that, then you just wake up that same time. And interestingly, actually, Diary of a CEO guy, Stephen Bartlett, yesterday interviewed, I saw online a guy saying it doesn't matter what time you sleep, but be consistent on what time you wake up, which was interesting because I was talking to this family member like that. And I said, yeah, pretend somebody's coming in the house at 8 o'clock, then be up at 7 o'clock every day. It doesn't matter whether a person is actually coming. So it's the same time with this uploading with your knowledge base. Pretend that you wanted it finished at a certain time and make it consistent, that you upload certain knowledge base at a certain time, then it should be quicker.
It's funny how the word consistency is so important in everything that we do, but so many people are unable to maintain consistency. I mean, from investments, if you're consistent, you know what, it could be very, very boring. But if you're consistent, you'll be very successful as well. Same with implementing AI into your business, be consistent. Doing videos, be consistent. And it's such a simple thing, but so many people are unable to do so. What would you say is like staying on that kind of path right now? How does a person stay consistent? How do you motivate yourself to, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing every single day? How do you trick yourself? How do you play with your mind? How do you make sure that somebody is consistent?
That's a hard question, Fong. So, but let me see if I can answer that correctly based on my experience. I had an advantage because one of my strengths is discipline. So it has helped me in good stead in my life. But I can tell you, my son is a creator. So he doesn't love structure at all. But he's young, he's a teenager. So I think one of the things that people also forget, other than consistency, is time horizon. And I say this a lot because I think you know from my talk before that our shellfish takes 10 years to grow. And when I talk about time horizon, I think people forget that if you just do things all the time, even for a short, just like going to the gym, I go swim 4 times a week. And so I go like, if I just do that consistently, even though it's like 20 or 30 minutes of laps only, but I go 4 times a week, it's fine. It's very different if you go maybe 2 hours just once a week. There's a big difference in the result. And so when we were fundraising for our aquaculture company, as I mentioned to you, it took 10 years to grow. The pitch that I have with everybody is, in Japan, they have 300-year plans. So what is 10 years? And so I've just leveraged the time horizon component of just be consistent in terms of time horizon. Don't stop. And funny enough, when I started my podcast in May of 2021, right after COVID, in my industry, there were only five of us, and I was the only one doing it in aquaculture in terms of my species.
Mm.
Now there's a gazillion of them, and most of the guests that I have on my show were actually like really high-powered CEOs and founders in my industry. And until now, I kind of feel like after 5 years, I'm like, I can't stop anymore. It's just part of my DNA, and that's how people knew me already. And so it has become a part of me now. And I think that's a trick. If you're looking for a trick, find something that can be a part of you. So maybe a mind game can be if your eyes is a part of you, you can't part with it.
I can totally relate to that. I think when I started my podcast, it was with two other guys at the same time. They did their podcasts and they're still going. So I'm like, well, I can't stop now. They're still going. And then they're doing the same thing. Oh, I can't stop now because he's still going. So we're keeping each other accountable. I know that like we mentioned before, you're doing other stuff outside of AI as well. What sort of focus point do you have outside of AI?
So
You're building villages. You're traveling around the world. You're doing a whole bunch of other stuff.
One of the things that I'm excited about, as I mentioned, was the tiny home village that I'm helping my dad with. It's a big project because it's a really remote area, and I'm not there in the Philippines, and so it's a little bit challenging to mobilize people without a project manager. So that was one of the things that I'm looking for is if I can find a farm manager and a project manager that be able to help do that. And it's big area. It's only 2 hectares. I already have one prefab home there, and I'm thinking to put four more. So I just love the idea of this place wherein it's gonna be by donation. It doesn't matter what you. It's a resting place when you're not doing what it is you're rocking and rolling with. And so that's kind of the big vision. And the purpose is twofold. I know that it's going to be a big trend that people, as you already know, you're in real estate, that housing is going to be a little bit of challenge. And with climate change, I'm in the sustainability space as well. With climate change, people will wanted to be going to remote places because it's cooler. And so one of the things that is a future trend, obviously, even with the kids, is it's going to be hard to play outside. That's why esports is going to be a trend. It already is, right? They can't play outside. And with housing, people can't afford big houses. So the tiny home villages has already started taking strides. It's very new in the Philippines right now, even though there's a bit of suppliers doing that. So it's just kind of a passion project for me at the moment.
Awesome. You mentioned sustainability a few times throughout this podcast. What are some of the things that companies should implement into their business so that the business is more sustainable, or even households that we can do that maintains a more sustainable lifestyle?
Great question. So, in my shellfish industry, one of the things that was brought to our attention was start small, right? So, I'm in BC, Canada, and one of the things that we haven't done before that we were recommended to do, I think last year, was why are we not collecting rainwater? And I was like, yeah, you're right. In the Philippines, that's what we did because I have to fetch water from the well, and it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from our house. And we did it all the time, that every time it rains, we just collect rainwater. So that's just a very simple example. Our shellfish has a life cycle assessment that it has a very low carbon footprint. And so we were thinking about, and I'm talking in technical terms here now, but I'm going to explain in a minute, if you have carbon credit. So I know it's kind of feel like cheating if you don't know what that is. It's if your company is doing things that are sustainable. I don't know what that is. For example, maybe you found a way how to save on energy and you're not able to claim it. Other companies who are emitting more carbon, then you can actually use that as a carbon revenue. And that's why they call it carbon credit. So something like that. So for really smaller, maybe mom and pop or solopreneurs, it's as little as maybe think of a way how to be paperless or think of a way on how to help other businesses, even just more aware, support your local farmers in terms of what they're doing. And in here, where I am in on Vancouver Island, we have big farm here wherein everything is fresh that they sell there. They invite people on a Friday to go and really break bread, literally. And they show them when there are guests from abroad, I bring my guests and they will teach them how to make cheese. And not really sustainability related, but more on the community side of things. Because to me, it's important when I'm talking about the new ABC of the new era of AI. I have a mentor also talking about everybody is in anxiety, burnout because of the crisis that's happening. And so with AI, blockchain, and community plays a big part in the sustainability game. Don't go do it alone. Right? We talked about people at the beginning, listening to people. What do they need to be able to not do it alone? Whether you know sustainability or not, community is going to be a big component of that because you have to get stakeholders agreements of whether you're in a industry like mine that's very heavily regulated. We report to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, to the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and what have you. So now we have actually a reporting, not ESG reporting if you're in my space, environmental, social, and governance, but more on, to me, I always say to people, and pun intended, that all these words end in ship because I'm in the ocean business. The three pillars of sustainability is leadership. I define as doing the right thing when no one's watching. Partnership, obviously, collaboration that I talked about with stakeholders, and stewardship. In my sustainable aquaculture business, we have three categories of how we're going to succeed in this business. It's knowing how to produce the species, how to produce it profitably, and third is how to produce it profitably in such a way that it supports the surrounding ecology. So I kind of talked a lot there, but go ahead.
No, it's all good stuff. So I know you mentioned a little bit of this stuff before. So what is it that people are, let's say, struggling with or they're witnessing in their companies that, hey, you know what, I need to reach out to Lourdes here, whether it's in the sustainability side or the AI side. What is the ideal avatar of people that should be coming to you?
Well, thank you so much for asking that question. Please do reach out whenever you need somebody that you wanted to be a sounding board. I call myself as a turnaround CEO. I can help you with whatever you're doing in your business, whether small, medium, or corporate, in terms of what's the next for you. Let's go next level, both with AI and with sustainability.
Awesome. Talk about big turnaround. You went from the smiling auditor to the person who's smiling but helping you grow your money and sustainability in your business. With regards to any other final words that you would like to share, for instance, like you have a few more minutes before a whole bunch of other people and audience members and all that kind of stuff to remember you by, what would that message be?
I would say smile every day and be interested in people. That's what I'm known for.
Nicely done. Before I let you go, I got five quick rapid fire questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. You're stranded on the deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence. You'll still be healthy. What would that food be?
Banana.
You are in a car ride and you get to choose one song to listen to over and over again. What's that one song that you won't get sick of?
I can do magic. I can do anything that you desire. Yeah,
Perfect. I didn't even have to ask you to sing it. You just did it. Um, Olympics is on, so if you had an opportunity to win the gold medal in something, what would that be?
Swimming.
Nicely done. You are being, oh, Hollywood calls and goes, hey, we would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?
Oh, Meghan Markle.
Ooh, interesting choice. And give me a number from one to five.
4.
One, two, three, four. So the word is whale. So if you
Ooh,
had to use the word whale as a metaphor for success, how is success like a whale?
think like a whale. Think big. Go big or go home.
Nice and simple, nicely done. Thank you very much. So that is how success is like a whale. Once again, thank you very much for your time, the stories you shared, and some of the wisdom and value that you given to the audience. Any final words that you would like to share?
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Fong. I really appreciate what you're doing to the world, and I get to know you better just with this short period of time that we're together. And let's keep that conversation going. Thank you so much again.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. And for everybody out there, if you fit some of the stuff that Lourdes here is able to help you with, whether it's in the AI space or in the sustainability space, make sure you reach out to her. Or you want to learn more about aquaculture, I'm sure she could teach you a little bit more about that as well. So once again, thank you very much. She's Lourdes. I'm Fong. Until next time, today is the day to log your peak potential. We'll see you later.
Bye for now.